Hey, hello, welcome back. This will be video number 3 discussing MLA format. I advise you watch all of these videos I am posting on MLA format regardless if you just did them previously in another class, a college class or a high school class. You can find the same PowerPoint I'm going to be looking at on the Blackboard page for this class. Again, just like the introductions, if you go to week 1, they're going to be on this page. You could find the MLA PowerPoint, and you download that. That's exactly what I'm going to be looking at. The MLA quiz, which is due the first week of this class. So if you do go to up here at the schedule, you're going to be looking at Thursday, September 6th. Watch all of these videos and take that quiz by 11:59 p.m. on that Thursday. So the quiz is going to be 10 questions. You can find this here, MLA quiz week 1. And the PowerPoint I'm discussing this, but just please watch all these videos in relation to the PowerPoint because I'm going to be discussing some things that I might elaborate on that might not actually be on here. Okay, so huge thing, MLA format, what it is, modern language association. It is usually used in humanities, so maybe arts and English. APA format, which we will not be discussing this class, is mostly the sciences, so psychology, chemistry, biology, you'll probably use APA. But we will not be discussing that because Jefferson College mandates that MLA format be taught in all English classes. Chicago is way more complicated, and chances are likely you won't have a college class, at least the Jefferson College is in Chicago. If you do, that instructor should teach you that thoroughly. Some basic formats. Paper should always be in Times New Roman and 12-point font. If you send me an essay that isn't anything else, I would change it myself, comment on the essay, say, hey, you should have done this, and I will deduct points from that. But I will also grade the page length based on Times New Roman and 12-point font. So if you try to change the font to like 14 and the actual type of font to something much larger like Arial, I'm going to change it and say it looks like 4 pages with a regular 14 font, and I change it back and it's 3 pages. I'm going to grade the 3 pages. Okay, so you want to make sure from the get-go you have Times New Roman and 12-point font on all your papers. Everything you send to me should be double-spaced. The only thing that shouldn't be is complex book entries. But if you send me any type of formal essay or assignment via Google Docs or Microsoft Word, that should be double-spaced. 1-inch margins on all sides, indent paragraphs 1/2 inch, and then page header and on each page. If you do not know how to do a page header on Microsoft Word, I'm going to show you how to do that right now, because it can be a little bit complicated. So this is my syllabus here, and if you notice on the top of each page, I have my last name and the page number, and it's working as a running page number. So if you just put your last name and the page number, what's going to happen if you change any language in your essay, it's going to look funky. It's going to change where it's at. So you want to make sure it's a running number, running header, regardless of what you do your actual essay. So on Microsoft Word, you can go to Insert. Top, there's a page number. And you should always do it on top of page. So you hit top of page. And this is going to be the options for placement on where you want that page number to be. I always gone to plain number 3. So it's going to be on the right-hand side of the top. And then I hit space and you put in your last name, whatever your last name is. I always highlight it, click home, and then I'm going to change that to Times New Roman and 12-point font as well. And when you're done, you just double click anywhere else in your actual Word document. That's going to make it to where no matter where I go in this document, here's page 5, here's page 6, or page 4. If I change anything here, it's not going to change that last name and page number. It's continue running throughout your paper. So you want to make sure you do that. For all your essays that you assign, this is the basics of MLA format, the very basics, the essays. When you are citing your sources, either in text or works cited, I'll talk about what that is in a minute, you're going to be using the most updated version of MLA, which is 2016 format. Now, in the past, if maybe it's been a while since you've used MLA format, if it was prior to 2016, you're probably familiar with other versions. We're not going to be using them, and when you send me your citations, if they are using outdated formats, I will point them out that they are. And a big reason why I'm doing complex book entries is because A video like this will tell you the information, but it doesn't necessarily teach you everything. So complex book entries are going to be a way for you to practice citing on your own. And then if they are wrong, I can kind of correct you on that, and then when your formal essays come along, you know what you're doing. So I won't, if they are completely wrong, I might take a few points off, but it's mostly trial and error, getting you to kind of be comfortable with MLA format, with citing your sources, making sure you understand all the components. So make sure in those complex book entries you go back and look at my comments, because I am going to be helping you out, making sure you're citing correctly. Based on the new format, you used to have things that were underlined and crazy stuff. Now, based on what edition you've used in the past, books are going to be italicized. So if you notice here, the Bedford Guide of College Writers, that is our textbook for this class. Articles or smaller essays or chapters within books are going to be in quotation marks. So this is, I think, chapter 4 titled, out of your textbook, recalling an experience. Okay, so if you were citing a chapter out of a book, you would put it in quotation marks. So if it would be a chapter, article, a smaller essay is in quotation marks. A full book is in italics. Nothing should be underlined. Okay, nothing should be underlined anymore. And nothing should be in italics and quotation marks. It should be one or the other. If I see that, I'll say something. In terms of what the difference between an in-text citation and a works cited page, in-text citations belong in the body of a work. So in your essay, so you write a paragraph and you're citing John Smith, you would say Smith, and you found his work on page 64. You put Smith 64. And at the bottom of your paper, at the end of your work, you should have a works cited citation belonging to John Smith. The works cited page indicates that you have that full citation, and then text citations indicating where exactly in your text you are using it, where that citation or idea is coming from. Again, you have to cite anything that's not your own language or idea. So if you found it someplace else, save it. You might need it later. You might need to cite it. One also important thing that this question gets asked quite often, actually, when you're writing formal essays, I put this here already, your works cited page does not count as a page. So if we have a paper that's 3 pages, that doesn't mean 2 pages plus a works cited page. That means 3 pages of writing, and the works cited page is on the 4th. Okay, that's very important. So you just take whichever page the last piece of writing is, even if it's a full page or just a sentence. You would go down to the next page and put works cited, and then all your citations should be there. And for every piece of information that's not your own ideas or language, you must cite that source in your works cited page and as an in-text citation. Also, if you have lots of work, let's say you're writing a big research paper, and you might actually have a few sources that you didn't end up using at the end of your paper. They weren't necessary at all. What you would do is eliminate them from your works cited page. So you want, as much as it is important to have sources that are in your paper, you also want to make sure you eliminate sources that you didn't end up using. So it's not confusing. I'm not looking at your paper going, well, here's these 5 sources. I don't see them in your paper anywhere. I'm going to be extremely confused. You only want to cite the sources that you use. So here's a difference between an in-text citation and a works cited page. If you notice, in-text citation is going to have a lot of information. Okay, you're going to have the author and the author's last name, comma, first name. Here, because it's in quotation marks, we have the title of that essay. I'm bringing this down for you. So it's the title of an essay. This is something that you would find online using EBSCOhost. I'll post another video about that. Drugs, education, prevention, and policy. That would be the journal that I found it out of. It could be a book, a journal, something that's the larger work that the essay's in. It always has to come in a larger work. So it could be a journal too. The volume number is the volume of the journal. The number 4, that's the issue of, so volume 7, issue 4, but they say it is number now. So again, they changed things. November 2000, that's the date it was published. And then the page numbers, you always want to have the page range, because it's not going to be the whole journal. It's just going to be the page range. You only need to put EBSCOhost or something like it if you found it on a database, and I'll post another video about how to find information. But EBSCOhost, if you have it in italics, and then this is the URL. You don't have to, please do not put this all in in-text citation. You really only need two things. You want the last name of the author and the page number. And there are changes to that. There are exceptions, and I will discuss that later on. But notice up here, the last name of an author and the page number you found it on. Also, the period should also be after the parentheses. It should never be here. If you don't have a citation, it belongs before the quotation mark. If you do have a citation, it belongs after the parentheses. I know that gets a little confusing, but that's the proper way to do it. If you need more help or examples, I can go to Purdue OWL. Purdue OWL is an excellent resource, which I think should be utilized. They changed their entire website, so if you've looked at this before, it's all weird. I don't particularly like it, the way they did it, but it's fine. You always want to make sure you're set on MLA. And they have a variety of options for you. This is also all in your textbook. But here's an example. MLA Formatting Style Guide is a full works cited page. If you notice, all the sources are in alphabetical order. Okay, so based on what comes first. You want to make sure they're all in alphabetical order, that they're all indented after the first line. That's a little bit confusing. The way I like to think about it is the flip from an actual paragraph. In a paragraph, you have the first line indented and all the other lines not. The citation is the opposite. Your first line is not indented, but every line after that line is. Okay, you don't have to worry about that if you just have one line of citation, which this last one is an example of. Okay, other things that have changed in the past, if it's a book like this one, you used to have to put print on the end. You don't. Websites, you used to have to put web on the end. You don't. So there are a few other changes that have occurred that are common. So now you don't. But this is an example of a kind of a new updated MLA format. So you can kind of look at that. Other things to look at on this website, in-text citations. There are examples of in-text citations. So I think I have some stuff on this PowerPoint, so I'll just go back to that. So again, look at Purdue OWL. If you have any other questions, if you need help navigating that website, I can help you out too. Just let me know. Here are some examples of in-text citations. I think the most important aspect of these that I want to point out is if you notice the first one, the first line here, it says Wordsworth stated, but there's not his last name in the citation. And before I said you need the last name of the author in the citation, in the page number they found that on. However, if you state the last name of the author or the authors in the actual sentence that you are citing them, you do not have to put that last name in the parenthetical citation, otherwise in parentheses. So that's going to be really important to know. So this one down here basically says the same thing, or it's in different words, or it's slightly different, but you don't have Wordsworth stated. Therefore, you need the last name of that in-text citation. This one's slightly different. Wordsworth extensively explored. This also is an example of the fact that you don't always need to have a direct quotation. Okay, these two are quotations of the same thing. This is a paraphrase or a summary. Paraphrase is also putting in your own words. Summary is summarizing a large chunk of work. So you could summarize a book in one sentence if you really want to. But paraphrasing is taking that sentence, saying spontaneous overflow of powerful feelings, and changing to the role of emotion in creative process. So similar things, different words, but that's really important. And I think I'm going to end this video here on slide 9. That's the last thing I'm going to talk about. So the next video you'll want to watch is video number 3, part B. I have no idea how many parts of this video. I'm going to see how far I get. There's a lot to discuss in MLA format. I know it's not the most exciting thing to listen to, but again, this is going to be really important later on when you do complex book entries, which is actually week 2. So the next video you should watch is video number 3, part B. Thank you.